Well, hello, everybody, for the third time today. There's 11 people on my screen. And guys, look, Joanne. And guys, look, Linda. Just thank you so, so, so much. Wow, what a blessing. What a blessing. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. I am super, super, super grateful. Really, thank you, thank you, thank you. Humbling. Thank you so much.
Can I say,
Bryce?
Shanti, even though we get shadow banned all the effing time, we have the absolute, for the people that seek us out and come to our shows, like I consider everybody our friend because we have the coolest people that have found their way to our weird little shows, you know? And we're so lucky to have these people, aren't we?
I feel, this is the thing, because for me, even though I work on average 6 days a week, okay, that I do shows and stuff. And also I've got a lot of other stuff that I do as well, my other work and blah, 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 honestly, for me, this is just hanging out with friends and having a natter and talking about the things that matter in life. And sometimes the topics are not fabulous. And yes, we're always going to get our trolls and our little haters. But, at the end of the day, just got to love them back to kindness. That's all. And sometimes I definitely don't always feel that way. I feel like taking someone and throwing them away. But at the end of the day, we are here. We are all in this together. And, I gave an announcement on Jesse's channel just now, just saying that Caleb is going to be taking some downtime. With all the talking that he's never, ever done before, and to doing 2 shows a week, sometimes 3, it's quite something. So he just needs to recover. It's like he's had massive energetic surgery. He just needs to recover and just build his strength again, and then he's back with us again. And what makes me feel so grateful to you guys is that Aquarius Rising Africa, this channel supports Caleb. I don't support Caleb. This channel supports Caleb. I make it possible for him to be supported because God knows if anyone deserves it, he does. And I am so grateful to each and every one of you. Those people who send $2, I have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart because I know the intention with which that money comes.
Yeah.
So I just want to say to you, thank you for everything, and thank you for supporting Caleb on this channel. He is just incredible. Okay, well, I don't know what we're going again, yeah, but I'm being grateful, and I'm expressing my appreciation for everybody who is here and makes things happen for those who are in need. This is why I do what I do. This is why I do what I do. And thank you, everybody.
I will say, I've never met Caleb personally. I've seen him in our chats from time to time, and he's always, I appreciate a good sense of humor, and he does seem to have a good sense of humor. And what you've told me about Caleb off camera, and I will say that even though I've never met Caleb, he holds a special place in my heart as well. And to be that brave and that courageous, that's remarkable that he has the, I know he's going to hate that I say this, but the balls to...
Caleb's got a thing with you, your weeders.
I know. So, but that's what he's got balls of brass, right? Like for him to come out and we definitely everybody needs downtime, right? Even and for all of us, I think
he has a new viewer. Sorry to interrupt you. 10 Point Defender. I saw you on Jesse's show earlier as one, asking questions about Jesse. Jesse was trained to be the Queen Mother of Darkness, which is the highest position in the Illuminati. She was taken in by her proctor, her grandmother, at the age of 4. She knows the system inside out. She's been one of my queen whistleblowers for 4 years now. Caleb Jade is ex-warrior, ex-military, ex-arcane, He's half Native American, half German, royal bloodlines, right bloodlines, and has been in the system since he was in the womb and tortured and abused. And he's a warrior. So they've pushed him, and he's done these intergalactic missions for the military, hunted giants, collected artifacts, and he's now sharing with us. And his body is taking its toll. And he's talking, and we support him. And that's who Caleb is. You're welcome to go and look on my playlists. There's lots of his stuff. Go and look at the first one where he talks about his gateway experience, and then the wild hunt, and then you'll know who Caleb is.
He has a very kind, his voice, when you hear him see, there's a kindness and a gentleness when you hear his voice. It's, you can't fake that, you know.
No, he's Caleb Jade and Jesse Zaberta. And who have you noticed that their initials mirror each other? I was wondering if anyone would see that. Look at that.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope Caleb knows that a lot of people appreciate him and are praying for him and are trying to lift him up, because it is, I mean, he's putting his life on, literally putting his life on the line, you know, by sharing these stories. And I
want to say, Mary Lee, I hooked those two up. I hooked Tom and Roseanne up, and there we go. You see, it's so cool. Roseanne Barr emailed me when Tom was doing my shows, and I got those two hooked up together.
Don't you guys think Roseanne would be so fun to hang out with? Like, every time I see her, I'm like, I want to get a beer with that chick. Like, I think she would be such a hoot to hang out with. The stories she can tell.
And I think, she's a lot of fun. She's a lot of fun. No, it's great. You know, and for me, it's so good to see everyone just connecting and the right people doing what they have to do. And, you know, just going in the directions they should, and each one is doing what they need to. Anyway, I appreciate all of you being here. And now that our little gab is over, gushing about our amazing viewers and this amazing life we're living, now we're going to learn about the Owl of Minerva. So everyone, get your pens and paper. Professor Bryce is in the house.
Well, I can't wait to hear everybody else's perspective on this. And we're going to talk about the mythology around this. And this is part of like the Shmezuit. We're 8 minutes in, so we might be good. Sometimes it depends on the time, guys, about when you can say certain words. But y'all know we're watched. Like, there are other channels that can get away with saying certain things that we can't get away with because we're watched. This has to do again with the Shmezuits and the Luma Shmati. And a lot of you guys might be familiar with this owl. This is also the owl that is very prominent in that little campsite for the elite in California. The Grove, you know, I don't know if we can say the full.
No, you can say Bohemian Grove. You can say it.
So that owl is there, and there is one connection to, and this morning I was trying to like put the connection together, and still in my mind, I can't quite connect the dots with why the worship of Moloch also involves the owl. I have some speculation around that, but we see throughout history that the worship of Moloch, or Moloch, as it's actually said, Moloch, because it's a Hebrew, but Moloch sounds a lot better. The owl has always been associated. Now we know Moloch itself is like a horned animal, you know, and the owl is not horned. But for some reason, there is a connection between these two animals. Now I do want to make this again. I know we're preaching to the choir, but before we go into this, just one more time for anybody new to the channel or those in the back who didn't hear, darkness cannot create anything. There is nothing that darkness can create. The only thing that can create is the light. So what the darkness does is it steals from the light and it inverts it, or it tries to mimic it. Think about a narcissist. Like, narcissists can't create, they can only mirror. So yeah, Christy, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. I mean, I have some speculations as to why the owl and Moloch are connected, which we'll talk about. But I want to like just to reiterate, like owls themselves are beautiful animals that are created by God, right? They're God's animals, just like goats are, just like snakes are. So we don't need to be going vigilante against the innocent owls. It's not their fault that the image of them, has been manipulated by the darkness. So when we talk about the Owl of Minerva, now back on Monday, we did the timeline of the Schmejuits, and I briefly mentioned the Owl of Minerva. And the Owl of Minerva was picked as we'll say a mascot for the Aluma Shmati. Back when the Aluma Shmati was created with Adam Weishaupt in 1775 or something like that, when the Jesuits were dissolved. And so they picked this emblem, this owl. Now, what's interesting about the Bohemian Grove is that the Bavarian Aluma Shmati, where this was created, that whole area is in Germany, is Bohemia. That's where Bohemia, the name, comes from. Now, we think of Bohemia now as being like, hippie-ish or like very open, but that's an area of the world. And I've got a lot of deep dives, which we can do even more. I can go back and revisit some of these stories that I was covering. There is some crazy stuff that happens in the Bohemian area of the world. Now, so it's interesting that the little campsite in California is called Bohemian Grove. That's just something interesting, just connecting some critical thinking skills, connecting the dots here. Now, you could speculate and say, because we know in another timeline that our geography is wrong. And I do actually believe that our geography is wrong more than our timeline. So is that part of California more Bohemian? Is that the actual Bohemian location? I don't know. It's close to Mount Shasta. So there's some other stuff around there that's interesting. Northern California is very mystical, very beautiful. They have huge trees, like ginormous. They're famous for their trees. But anyway, that's just speculation on my part. But so we have, and I wrote in my notes, like, where does this legend come from, the Owl of Minerva? Now, we know that the owl, we can speculate that the owl was also picked because owls can see in the dark, right? They can see in the dark. They're nocturnal beings who can see in the dark. The wise old owl, right? They can. And so what is the Aluma Shmati doing?
Looking in the dark.
They're living in the dark. They can see, and now I love, as Jesse said on one of the shows. Yes, Helen, Georgia. I should go up there and Helen's weird. I always get a little creeped out when I'm in Helen. Helen, Georgia is like this German village, like in the middle of Appalachia, Georgia, like small. It's crazy, but yeah. Anyway, I should go up there and do more research into Helen because it's beautiful, but it's very fascinating, very out of place. But the owl can see in the dark. And I love in one of the episodes you did with Jessie, she talked about how we're learning a new language. We're learning the language of the Aluma Shmati. So they can't hide anymore. They can't hide in the dark anymore, right? Because what's the one thing that gets rid of the dark? There's only one thing that gets rid of the dark.
Strike a match.
Strike a match. It's the light, right? So that's the one thing. And so if you bring it to the light and we can all see and we can all speak the language, then it's not the owl anymore, is it? Because we can all see, right? There's no darkness to hide anything. So, but now what I find interesting is it's not just an owl in general. It's the actual Owl of Minerva. So let's talk about this mythology. So in Greek mythology, the little owl is the familiar of Athena, and in Roman mythology, Minerva. So Greek mythology, Athena, Roman mythology, Minerva. And these two, Athena and Minerva, basically share the same story. Now, when I say familiar, that is a witchy title, all right? So let's go back and look at the etymology again of the word witch, because once again, darkness can't create anything, only the light can. Just like how we talked about how the word heretic means one that doesn't believe the official narrative. So we're all heretics, right? We're all heretics. I love it.
I'm the biggest heretic.
So when someone calls you a heretic, just be like,
"Yeah, you got a label."
Yeah, just be like, "Thank you so much." It's calling me a heretic. Basically, you just called me a critical thinker, someone who can think for myself. Yeah. So that is the best compliment that you can give me, right? So when we look at the word witch literally means a wise woman. That's all witch means. is a wise woman.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
So if you want to call me a witch, thank you.
And also they were considered wise women because they understood how to work with nature.
Yes.
They understood how to work with plants. They understood what plants were healing. Apothecary. Sorry. Now, if we look at what Jesse was saying as well, just look at the earlier show when it's all the female lineages and blah blah blah. Everything is about apothecary for them. So, in other words, like what herbs and what concoctions can they make to create what? But remember, their concoctions are not for the well-being of others. It's for self-service. So they're using that energy, the energy of the plant, to manipulate it so that it serves their purpose and no one else's, right? It's for selfish gain. But if you come to my house and you say to me, Shanti, I've got this and this thing, I'm going, well, hey, I've just got exactly the right plants in my garden for that.
Yeah.
Pick, boil, 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 drink, 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 feel much better. Very big difference. And, you know, that's what we have to, this is where why the word discernment is so important.
Yeah.
Because we have to discern between how the energy is being used. Energy is energy. In itself, it's neutral. Like everything, a human being, a baby, is born pure. It's up to its parents or those in its circle what habits it learns. It's malleable, just like our DNA. That's why they like us so much. Our DNA is malleable. It can interface with anything, really, which is why they're creating all sorts of crazy chimeras from humans, right? So it's the same thing, you know. So really, at the end of the day, we've got to discern what is okay and what is not okay.
Right.
And that's, you know, just because you're having CBD oil doesn't mean you're a drug addict and you're trying to get high. We understand that CBD oil is very healing, which is why they brought it to the fore, right? So that's what we got to look at here. That's the intention behind everything. Yeah.
And as I've said this before, like the Navajo, when they would teach, because, you know, that's where the Skinwalker comes from. They would teach their children that magic is, we learned that with the Emerald Tablets. When he referred to the magic, he was referring to humans. We're magic. And we have to decide what we do with that. That's why in the law of one, third density is the density of choice. Whether you're going to go in the dark polarity, this is the polarity of darkness, or the polarity of light. Yeah, or service to self or service to others. Now, the Navajo would tell their children that to practice black magic means that you work against nature for your own selfish desires. You try to change the will of nature. But to practice light magic or white magic means you work with nature to help enhance your life. And so I'm trying to take back Susan, witch is just a neutral term. It just means wise woman. So you can be, I'm trying to take that word back. You can be a good witch or you can be a bad witch, right? I thought heretic referred to a woman with, no, heretic is like, yeah, it's just somebody who's a critical thinker. So we can take that. And, you know, the honesty, like I've had this discussion with people before. You have to fight fire with fire, right? Like you can't be doing all this occult nonsense without us also understanding it and pulling it back to its original template.
Exactly.
You know, about a lot of our mothers practice some form of witchcraft. And I know that's going to trigger people when I say that, but it's not, it's a craft of a wise woman, right? If you use turmeric, you know that you're inflamed and you take some, you go, I know just the thing for that, turmeric. That's what that's what the witches that were burned at the stake were doing. They were using plant medicine. Mm-hmm. So we have to take that word back.
As well as our symbols, you know, we have to take back our symbols. I mean, for example, the Ankh.
Yeah, I have.
Now, most people will look at that and they will go, "Oh my God!" Firstly, let me tell you, the Ankh is not originally from Egypt. Okay, it's not from Egypt. The Egyptians immortalized the Ankh. Okay, by using it for their nefarious purposes. And yes, when you go into studies, you know, the studies of Egyptian magic and stuff like that, the Ankh, I want to tell you, is the most powerful symbol that exists. Why? Because it contains all your aura is shaped like the Ankh. Look, it's like a human, right?
Absolutely.
So your aura is like so, which is why it unlocks the key to human consciousness. It was never ever from Egypt. The Ankh originally comes from sub-Saharan Africa. That's where the Ankh originates from. So, and it has nothing to do, well, there will be similar things. It's the key of life, but when you really start studying the true meaning of the Ankh, then you understand why it is actually God's symbol. It's God's symbol, not the devil's. And when you look at the crucifix, which symbolizes suffering, the Ankh is the resurrected version of the crucifix. In other words, from suffering, we resurrect our consciousness. Hello, circle around the head. Bing, light bulb moment goes on. Bing, and then I perceive the world differently. I resurrect my body, my being, my entire consciousness, and now, because the symbol of the Ankh talks about transformation, resurrection, and protection, right? Transforms you from suffering to consciousness, okay? Resurrects your consciousness, and that consciousness protects you naturally. You don't need extra protection when you have the consciousness that radiates from within you. So I'm just saying that we've got to look at these things very differently. And hear me when I tell you, and if anyone in this chat tells me, the Ankh is from Egypt, it's not. You've heard it today. It is not from Egypt. The Egyptian immortals or the demigods have used the Ankh to usurp people's power.
Yeah,
they have learned how to use it because
selfishness, the service to self, right? And so
they do blood rituals and blood magic with the Ankh. Tell you that now. But when you flip it around and you use it for what its true intentions are, and you just see it. I don't use it. I never use it. It's just an understanding that I have. I just love the symbol. And my brother made me that, and my nephew made me 2 more. I just have the most beautiful Ankhs that existed. Someone carved one out of bone for me. Someone carved one out of a horn for me, a ram's horn. I just have them. They are just beautiful. So
yeah. And I will say too, like, how sad is that? Like, we claim to worship a God of healing and of mercy and of grace, but yet we're going to destroy something that's been used for nefarious purposes. Would we do that to a human being? If a human being has been used in abuse, would we just get rid of that human being because they're not pure? No, we always return things back to their template. That's part of what the light does, is it's healing. And it's returning things back to their template. And so absolutely. And I always say too, if we were to go vigilante, first of all, vigilantism is not of the light. It's not of the light. It's aggressive. It's unfair. It's making judgments that shouldn't be there. But if we were to go vigilante and go scorched earth, getting rid of everything that the Illuma Shmati has touched, we would literally have nothing left. So we can't paint things black and white. We have to, there is a complexity here. Human beings are definitely complex creatures for both the darkness and the light. And so there has to be, one of my favorite sayings is, seek to understand so that you can be understood. Right? See the beauties in other and you see the beauty in yourself. Right? It's all mirroring. And so when we talk about a witch, or if we talk about these legends, we have to always remember that nothing can be started from darkness anyway. So there's always a spark of life at the beginning of these stories. And it's up to us to figure out where that light starts and clean these things up. So when I talk about that the owl is a familiar to Athena and Minerva, I'm not, and that being a witch term, I'm saying that these women are wise women. They're wise women. Now we're going to talk about their story and we can get into, but again, as women, they're complex because we're all complex, right? Human beings are all complex. In order to, according to the law of one, in order to graduate to the polarity of light, You have to be 51% service to others. 51%. That means that 49% of you can be an absolute dick, right?
Yeah, I'm just putting that up. It's just because it's interesting. It's true. It's part of programming.
Yeah.
That they made the kids ride on broomsticks because that was part of the way they got them to astral project. Is that they got them to ride on broomsticks. Yeah,
well,
but carry on. I didn't mean to disturb you.
If we look at the broomstick, that's wood. So if we bring it back to its natural template, it's not going to be used for abuse, right? So, so when I say that the owl is a familiar of Athena and Minerva, I don't want people to get freaked out by that, because basically what a familiar is often a small animal that accompanies a witch. It is believed that a familiar not only brings protection, but can also lend to the witch discovering her own magical powers. So a lot of us probably have, like, I feel like my dog Ravi is like a familiar, because I feel like, I've had lots of dogs and I've loved them all equally, but there's something about Ravi that's very there's a different about his soul. He feels very much like mine, like there's a connection there. I know my boyfriend will probably kill me for saying this, but I'm definitely his favorite. He definitely I'm his favorite.
Mommy, he's such a you mommy.
So when I'm not feeling well, when I'm sick and I'm laying in the bed, Ravi, my dog, will guard the bed and will not let my boyfriend in. Like, if my boyfriend tries to come into the room when I'm sick, he growls at him. However, when my boyfriend is sick, Ravi tries to sit on his head, which apparently is a sign of dominance. It is the funniest thing. It is hysterical. It is hysterical. He goes, my boyfriend will be laying on the bed sick, and Ravi gets up on the bed. He looks down at my boyfriend, and then he literally turns around and backs up and sits right on his head. So it's the funniest thing. But there's definitely and in fact how Ravi came to us. Ravi's a rescue from India, and we've rescued other dogs from India before, but we didn't actually rescue Ravi. Somebody else rescued him, and we ended up with him. So the fact that so I think we can all find some, and Ravi does protect me, and I do feel like I have some sort of a telepathic communication with him, anyway. So I wanted to so the owl is very important to both Athena and Minerva, which is basically kind of the same entity, we'll say. Now, I have a belief, and this is just my opinion, that the Greek deities specifically, and some of the Roman deities that we see, are probably Nephilim. That's just my opinion. We see in a lot of the old paintings and statues of these creatures, of these people, that they're giants. And I think for a long time we kind of assumed that this was more of a metaphor, or more of like our ancestors of the past, like glorifying these. But I think our ancestors were being a little bit more literal. They were being literal. Now, with that being said, again, we can't generalize, even though the Nephilim notoriously are not good. They make some bad choices. I believe in fairness, that every single Nephilim, just like every single human being, needs to be judged on his or her own accord by the content of their character. And even though certain groups do generally as a whole, it's just like the Illuminati. As a whole, most of these families continue in their family karma. Like, they continue to do bad things, but we have people like Jesse, people like Caleb, that were born into these families that made the decision to leave. So we cannot judge somebody just because of their last name. So I want to make that very clear. Now, my opinion could change on that, but I do at this point believe that the Roman gods and the Greek gods were actual Nephilim.
Yeah.
That is my opinion. So, Belinda, every time I say Shemati, I laugh. I mean, listen, YouTube's done this to themselves. They've forced us to create a whole new language. So it's YouTube.
Now they just got to suck it up.
They just got to suck it up. We're gonna. What was that movie, Mean Girls, where she tries to make fetch a thing? Like, let's make fetch a thing. We're gonna make Illuminati a thing. They're no longer the Illuminati. They're now the Illuminati, and they're the Shmezuits. They're the Shmezuits now, and we can just laugh at them while it takes their power away, right? They're the Shmezuits. So let's talk about the Roman goddess Minerva, whose sister goddess is Athena. Minerva is the goddess of wisdom, justice, law, victories, and she sponsors the arts and strategy. The name Minerva means intelligent understanding. Now, we also know, I like that, Linda. We also know, Rationary. I'm just, you guys, like, we're literally having to do this at the last, like, figure out, like, before you see me in my own videos where I'll kind of stutter a minute because I'm about to say a word that I know I can't say. So I have to quickly think about the other day I made a video and I called intimacy, the hippity hop at the last minute because I was trying to figure out a way to talk about boinking without like saying the words. I was like, the hippity hop, the hippity hop. So we're just going to have a whole new dictionary. Now, the thing about the arts and strategy with Minerva, what's interesting, we've done a deep dive into Dionysus as well, who's also connected to Zeus, which we're going to get to Zeus in a minute. Go back and rewatch that video because that's pretty much what the, Dionysus and Zeus, this is where Christianity comes from. This is like Zeus is Jesus. That's the name Jesus, right? So his real name was Joshua. So I thought it was interesting, and Dionysus is also affiliated with the art. So there could be a connection between Minerva and Dionysus. Again, that is a very dark deep dive. It's on Shanti's channel. If you go back and look at the cult of Dionysus and what that all means. Athena, the ancient Greek goddess, is associated with wisdom, warfare, and handicraft, the protection goddess of Athens, right? Symbols are the owl, obviously, the olive trees, and the snake. Now let's talk about Athena's background, because Minerva and Athena, remember, they're kind of the same entity, but different cultures call her different things. So Athena, again, I am not a fan of old Zeusy Poo. Zeusy Poo, although Zeusy Poo is like one of the main deities of Greek mythology, Greek mythology, he's like the most narcissistic prick you'll ever meet. Like, what is it if somebody said you just take Zeus out of the picture and then you've really got no Greek mythology? Because Zeus cannot keep his, sorry, Caleb, if you're watching, he can't keep his wiener in his pants. Like, literally, like, that's the story of Zeus. He is schmaping women all the time, right? Can't say the R word. So that is literally the story of Zeus. He's going around, what he wants, he takes. He's a narcissistic psychopath. Obviously, this is why. And I think that Zeusy Poo, was definitely a Nephilim that did have wreaked havoc on the world. We look back.
He's probably quite close to old Lucy himself. It wouldn't surprise me if he's like one of Lucy's right-hand guys.
Exactly. And that's where we get, like, if you guys go back again and watch the Dionysian, Dionysus was also a child of Zeus. All right. And that's why it's Hail Zeus, or Jesus, Hail Zeus, because that is the cult of cannibalism, of drinking of the red substance that comes from our bodies. It's also the cult of schmaping, we'll say, schmaping children to the point of it being, I'm trying to watch my words, but smut. No, Miss Fiji, Minerva is the daughter of, we're going to get into that, Athena, and she's one of the daughters of Zeus. Zeus has got a lot of kids. That's what happens when you can't keep your wiener in your pants, is you end up with a lot of children. And because if we go back to the Bible and we look at the inversions, especially in the Old Testament, which is completely inverted. So all the good guys in the Old Testament are actually the bad guys. So if we look at like Moses, we've talked about Moses, the name Moses, the etymology means dark warlock or dark magician. They worship the Elohim. Now, there's a lot of debate over what the Elohim means. I believe that Elohim is a group of aliens that came to Earth. 7. Yeah, and I think this ties into the Nephilim, the worshiping of the Nephilim, which was the demigods. We know the word demigod, which is half man, half God, or half alien, God with a lowercase g. So the Nephilim, these are the children of the Elohim. So it makes sense that not all the Anunnaki. We're gonna actually, Shanti and I are working on in the future a big O negative show, and we're gonna get into kind of, because again, the Anunnaki. But yes, Yelena, the Anunnaki did. The story, the legend is that the Anunnaki came to Earth to find gold. Right, that was where that legend came from. And so, if you listen to Billy Carson, he talks about this. We're in our primitive state. We see these flying saucers, and we think this is God. And so a negatively polarized entity will take advantage of that because they do have they're in a higher state of density, so they can do things that we can't do in our heavy bodies, right? So, and so we see with like the Moses and the worship of the Elohim, whereas the Egyptians were worshiping one God at this time. So it's flipped, right? He was doing this black magic. And then of course, we keep going down the line. We've got David and Solomon. Again, the Testament of Solomon, he basically tells you he's a Moloch worshiper. He's doing child sacrifices. This is not the dude we want to be venerating. But we see this build up with this worship of Zeus, and we see what Zeus's character is like. And that's where the name Jesus comes from. We can definitely see the Dionysian cult.
Jesus. Yeah, Jesus.
The real guy's name is Yahshua, y'all. Like back in those days, the J sound didn't exist. So what happens when you replace Yahshua, the Yay, with the J? What name does that turn into? Joshua. Josh. Not Jesus.
Exactly.
So this is and once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I want to remind you guys, like, I am a huge fan of God. Like, I have a huge, deep, profound relationship with the divine. I love God. My whole day is surrounded by communion with God, right? So just because I'm telling you guys that where this is where this is all coming from with religion, then I'm not saying that God doesn't exist. So we have to separate, because they've gotten us into this. They've gotten us into this like mindset where religion and God have to be together. No, religion is man-made. Religion means the worship of many legions, the worship of the Elohim. Okay, so we got to separate that. So let's get back into. So I believe Athena and Minerva were. So, Christy, the god, though, that Solomon was talking to was Moloch, not the creator God. Different God, not the real God. And Moloch, I think I've said this before. Do y'all remember what the original name of Moloch was? This is going to shock people. Yahweh.
Yeah, Yahweh. That's the other name, Yahweh.
How many crunchy Christians, how many Christians out there that think they're, cool, that go back to calling God Yahweh? You're talking to Moloch.
Yeah, that's true.
That is who God, that is. So Christy, I would just encourage you to read the Lost Testament of Solomon and the Lesser Keys of Solomon, because he goes into detail about this, that he is a worshiper of Moloch. And that's why the Lost Testament or the Testament of Solomon was removed from the Bible, because they don't want you to know that he was doing human sacrifice. Mr. B, our president, Mr. B, what he's doing to us right now with the high taxation. And that's why I personally believe that the Illuma Shmati is still in control, because we're still consenting to them through Christianity. Because what Solomon was doing is the same thing that, if you go back and read the Bible, it's all there. How did he get so rich? How did Solomon become so wealthy? He taxed the crap out of his people. He brought his people into bankruptcy. That's in the Bible. What did Solomon do to the people who spoke out against him? What did he do to those people? He either killed them or he exiled them. He censored them. So we can't sit there and say, I hate the B team and I want the B team. And I don't want this matrix. I don't want this cabal. And then still venerate Solomon. But King David was doing the same stuff. Solomon became the king after David, after his dad. He was not the son who was in line to become the king. He was the son of Bathsheba. He was not the firstborn son. How did he then become the king? Because his brothers who were older than him walked away from the faith. They did not want to participate in human sacrifices anymore. They didn't want to do it anymore. And so that's why David favored Solomon, because Solomon would do it. So David was super corrupt. They were all worshipers of Moloch. If you listen, there's and I'm trying to get Laura Knight into do an interview with me. She's a huge, I have her, this book right here of hers, huge book. She's done huge research into the Bible, more than I've done. And a lot of what she says, I agree with. And she just did an interview where she said, if we want to go back to real Christendom, you got to take away the Old Testament. You got to get rid of the Old Testament. It's not a part of the teaching. The real Christendom is not.
There's a woman on YouTube And I'm going to say, I think her name is Dr. Elaine Pagel. Now,
yes,
she
like
is
yes,
she's a Christian historian.
Yeah.
Now, she absolutely analyzes the Bible in the way it's meant to be. Like, she will also talk about a lot of the stuff that is being taken way too literally. Way too literally. A lot of the stuff has been, taken too literally and pretty much misunderstood, right? So she's a great channel.
I use her research a lot, and I will see. So Jesus was not Yahshua was not the descendant of David. Yahshua was Egyptian. He was not even Jewish. So remember, the Bible's been edited multiple times. It's been changed multiple times. Remember the Council of Nicaea back in the 4th century, there were 770 books of the Bible. They got rid of most of them. And then they edited, they brought in editors and correctors to change the Bible.
That's true. That's true. And again, you speak to people like Caleb, who's been in the arcane, and they know this. Caleb has said so often, he said, when he came out of the arcane, he could not believe that no one else knew what they knew, because they are taught the truth. Yes. The guys in the arcane are taught the truth about the Bible, as well as the missing books, as well as everything, and how the Bible is corrupted. And that's one of the big things that Caleb actually educates us on. So, honestly, I think this is such a tricky time when it comes to, because so many people have been brought up with this and they know their Bible back to front and inside out. It's not so much about it's more about just opening your mind to realize that we probably have been duped. And once you've opened your mind, then you pray for truth and let God guide you to the truth. That's all.
And that doesn't mean, and it's actually liberating. Like when I started doing this research and realized that it's all bullshit, that it's all a work of fiction, basically, I felt so liberated, because there were things I've seen people saying, like Dragonfly, I think it was Dragonfly that said, no, JoJo said the Old Testament never sat right with her. Same, like some of these stories never sat right with me. That's not the God that I know. And then when you start study King James Bible, the real Yahshua, the real person, the Egyptian, the Essene, was never crucified. Because why would the God of light do that? Why would the creator God do that? That's the story of Dionysus. That's the story of Mithra. That's not the eating of the flesh, drinking of the blood. That's not what good people do. That's what Satanists do. So once you know that, what is the Cassiopeians? They say, if knowledge is power, knowledge protection is protection, and knowledge is infinite, right? And so the more you learn, the more you can protect yourself. The word church, again, I've talked about this, the etymology. You have to look at the etymology of these words. The etymology of church it comes from a name of a demon whose job was to hypnotize you and then feed off of your soul.
That's exactly, it sounds harsh when we hear that. And it doesn't mean that each and every church is like that. Let's just be clear. I'm sure there are many churches who aren't like that. But again, when you're looking, for example, at Jesse's decodes on the Mormon church, on the Catholic churches, look at the way they're built. They're telling you in plain sight what they're doing. There's sacrifices going on there. There's magic going on there. There are rituals going on there. And that's exactly, what they've been doing in the churches. Any survivor that I have spoken to there's not one that's been in SRA, that's what I'm talking about, that has not had stuff go down in churches.
Yeah.
So
100%.
There we have living proof of the word, Bryce. What you're saying is that word does mean what housing demons? Is that what it's supposed to? What did you say?
It's the name of an actual demon.
An actual demon
whose job is to hypnotize you and then feed off of you like a vampire.
So the thing is, the whole objective then is okay, but really why we think about a church is to gather, right? It's beautiful to have your community gather in this Holy Spirit and all of that stuff. But maybe the new way forward is to have different gatherings like we're having on here. You know, that's why I call our thing with the gathering with Caleb, because it is a gathering. It's getting together, and it's like-minded people joining and just connecting on a spiritual level. Doesn't matter what your indoctrination is. We've all been indoctrinated with something. You know, the whole thing now for me is, what is in your heart? What is in your heart? Because I promise you, truth aligns with truth.
Yeah.
And when you are true in your heart, and it doesn't just mean talking truth to the people, it's understanding at the highest level God's true truth and being in alignment with that, which means you don't judge people, which means every Nephilim, every Raphaim down there is one of those dark souls that Jesus has said, or God has said, I'm waiting for my flock to come home. Who do you think God's talking about? Those beings. Yeah. And that is why when I have these things come and attack me, I have an understanding with God that when they come to me, they're ready to go back to God. So when they start attacking me, instead of sending them back to the gates of the abyss, I send them back to God.
Yeah, that's 100%. God, the real God, loves the Nephilim just as much as he loves you and me. You know, and
those are his children. He created them.
Those are his children. Right, exactly. And that's
grandchildren and great-grandchildren. You know, think about this. Think about a loving father. And I'm fighting with you, Bryce, across the country. And I'm going, yeah. Let me tell you, God, when you talk to the true God, God will never take sides, ever. You know what God always says to me when I'm like complaining what I did in the past? God says, well, I love your enemy as much as what I love you. And like any loving father would say, I love you both the same. Go and fix out your nonsense. Go and sort it out. You know, we are all in that. Yeah, we're all created
together. And that's the thing too about the beings of the light. Beings of light will never interfere unless you absolutely ask them for help, because they respect your free will. They respect your free will. Darkness will interfere all the time, and they'll mimic the light. And I think what we have to do again is just recognize that God is not confined to a book. God is not confined to a book. It is not. Religion means the worship of many legions. We have to be clear about what's happening, and that this is not. There's not, you know, and that I say this all the time because in my experience, generally speaking, and I've had beautiful experiences in this world with many people of many different faiths, but Christians have been the most wicked to me and the most cruel. And the amount of bloodshed and violence that has come from Christendom still to this day statistically tops any other. It would take another couple thousand years for other religions to even match the amount of bloodshed that's come from Christianity. So when you're looking at the truth of the hypnotizing of Zeus, you're looking at a religion not of peace, but of bloodshed.
Well, how do you think the guys in the arcane, again, you know, when you listen to people like Caleb, and he said this openly on several of his shows, part of his job was to go into churches and corrupt the not the congregation, it was more the leaders. They would go in there, throw runes at certain areas of the church, and remember, they can't catch you in that web unless you are open to it.
Absolutely.
And the preachers invariably got bought over.
That's why they wear black robes. That's the Jesuit robe.
Yeah. And so then they would be used, and then these guys in the arcane would use them as their puppets. They would then filter information to them that they want given to the congregation. So it's true, and it's true. All religions have everything. Yeah. Every religion has.
They do. All religions have blood on their hands, but Christianity, if you look up the statistics, like Christianity it comes above Satanism. Like the amount, I mean, you think about the Spanish Inquisition, which we're gonna cover, the Protestant Reformation, the Crusades, all of the people, the blood atonement. I mean, it is like a massively higher. Christianity has by far the most bloodshed on its hand. Like it would take a lot for. I mean, that's what gets me too. It's like, you know, we look at like Islam and like the fundamentalist Islams, like, and we see Christians get upset. And yeah, Islamic terrorism is not a good thing, obviously. but we need to look in our own backyard too, because there are many, I mean, for Islam has nothing. It hasn't even scratched the surface on the brutality of Christianity. And again, you have to understand that just because something is hard to hear doesn't mean it's not the truth. And the more, and this is why, well, St. Matthew, it is though. So the real Christianity only lasted like 200 years. Real Christianity doesn't exist anymore. Because that was
the original Bible. There's only one original Bible that exists, and that it would be the Ethiopian Bible.
No,
and that's
it's actually not even Ethiopian Bible. It's the original Geneva Bible. That's not the Geneva Bible we see out in the real one.
ODYSEE.
Yeah, it's all the Essene. It's all the Essene stuff, and it's under the Vatican. Like they got that down. That shit down lock and key. Like they're not gonna you really think, like, let's go back and read. This is why I think that the Illuminati is still in control, because we're still feeding into it. We're still consenting to it through Christianity, because it's the biggest religion in the world, right? So let's think about this logically. We know that the Illuminati controls the schools, the government, medicine, everything, Hollywood, entertainment. But you don't think they don't have control over the biggest religion in the world?
Well, they are controlling it.
Exactly. It's common sense. Like that's just common sense.
Yeah.
If you don't believe that, then I got a horse I want to sell you. This is common sense, you know. And it's not, you know, for me in this discovery of this stuff, it weight fell off of me. Weight fell off of my shoulders, because there was a liberation. There's a liberation because, yeah, of course, there's, you know, when we go, I'm concerned now at churches when I see people saying you have to ask Jesus into your heart. No, you don't. You go with God. You're already good with God. And who is Jesus? Jesus is Zeus.
Yeah.
So what
that's
demon
how they
are
realize.
What demon?
And that's why so many Christians stay stuck, because and this is the thing, you know. But let's just talk about healing. The first thing that you told is to lay your sin, problems, whatever, at the feet of the cross or with Christ. Well, that's the first thing. That's called repentance, or taking responsibility, right? Now, that's important, because it's so important to recognize that, in my opinion, you've never needed to be forgiven, but you'll get to that point. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're repenting, you're acknowledging you've made mistakes. You need to rectify what you need to rectify, etc. Now, the next step is, okay, so Christ says now, well, I've forgiven you. Now, can you forgive you? Mm-hmm. Now you need to go and rectify your wrongs. So if you've done something to someone that you need to apologize for, trust that you have the courage that you will be forgiven by someone else as well. Trust these things, you know. So then it takes a whole lot of shadow work as well that transforms, and not transmutes, because transmutes is something different, that transforms that energy, right, back into creative life force again, back into resurrected consciousness, right, back into understanding, back into walking a different path. And then you feel the fullness of forgiveness. Okay, because then you've been able to rectify your wrong from a place of truth, and then you are aligned with truth. Then your body heals itself. Then your body is restored. And this is what I'm saying. This is how Christ saves us, by using. Yes, you use that as an example, and you apply those teachings to yourself. You become the living Bible. You then put your Bible away. It's like, I don't use my readers from grade 1, 2, 3, 4 anymore, do I?
No,
I learned see 1, 2, 3. It's in me. Yeah. So now put your Bible away and let those words come alive in you, in your everyday actions, instead of shouting from the hilltops Bible verses that just piss most people off. Because when someone does that to me, I just know you have not even begun to integrate.
Exactly. When people say to me, but the Bible says, and I'm like, obviously you've done zero research. So you and I are not on the
Have
same
you
level.
applied? It's up to us to apply the teachings of Christ.
Yeah.
And when we apply the teachings of Christ, then we save ourselves. That's when your vibration rises, your frequency lifts, and then you fly high and you're not in the swamp anymore. Then you're in the right place at the right time. That's why Jesus says, know thyself. Because when you know thyself, you know what to work with, you know what's your shit, you know how to deal with it, you know that you need to do certain things, and without doing certain things, you're not going to get to a certain point. But you have the energy in you, you have been forgiven, you have Christ's forgiveness, that's a given. Now you've got to apply that forgiveness in your life, and now you've got to be a cool person after that, and not just
and I was
running
saying,
around.
Karen Raymond just said, I was raised Catholic, Italian heritage, left. That became a JW for 10 years and left, still seeking. Karen, I'm going to tell you, girl, what you're seeking is you. It's already in you. It's already in you.
Stop, look within, feel, know that you are created from the light of God. And when that knowledge sparks up, every cell in your body catches a light with this knowledge, and then you become God in action. You are not God like the Illuminati is trying to do. Fine line. You then do God's will. I'm a conduit for God. I know that. No one, as much as what I'm called a witch every day of my life and a Satanist in a ninth circle, I laugh because it's so funny. It's so funny. I'm like, people can't just see what's right in front of you. Come on, learn to use your third eye. See an aura. Once you see an aura, you won't doubt. Come on. So that's what I'm saying. Some people have. Some people have.
We don't live by our words, we live by our actions. And I know for me in my life, I will absolutely give anybody the shirt off my back. I try to be as kind to other people as I want them to be to me. Now on the show, we're talking about these hard truths, but then you've got people who claim to be Christian who are out there threatening my life, threatening Shanti's life, trying to determine our salvation, all that kind of stuff. And that's so actions are showing where your heart really is and where your alignment really is. And remember, guys, for those who are
know them by their fruit.
Exactly. And for those who are having a really hard time, like getting out of the mind control of the church, remember the Illuminati has programmed us to defend them. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you really think that the true God, the real God, the God of creation, has a chosen people? No.
Come on, we're all chosen.
No, we're all chosen. But does Lucifer have a chosen people? Yes. So why? And I'm not saying those people are bad. Obviously, there's beautiful people in the Jewish faith. I have friends that I'm not talking about the specific higher ups. So why is it? Do you think they turned Yahshua's name into Zeus and then made him Jewish? It's pretty obvious. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can see.
Hello, Rothschild. Hello, Rothschild.
Hello, Rothschild. Hello, Illuminati and the Barbarian Illuminati and the Owl of Minerva. Like so it doesn't matter. Like Yahshua could, if he was Jewish or Egyptian or white or black, it doesn't matter because we're all God's people, all of us. You tell me because I'm a damn Gentile that I'm not God's chosen person? All you Gentiles out there, absolutely you are. We all are. We all are. As parents, Shanti, I know you only have one kid, but if people have multiple kids, do you have one kid that's like your favorite? No.
You might like them for different reasons.
Yeah.
You're going to see things in you'll see children for different reasons. But the bottom line is you love them. You really do. I mean, if you're a normal parent, that is not a psychopath parent.
Right. You might know that one child. What is it? I read a meme once, like parenthood is weird. You could have two children, one that you would trust to run your house without you there, and the other you don't even trust with an umbrella, and they're close to the same age. So you recognize your children have different energies and different talents and different personalities and they excel at different things, but the love for them is equal. The love for them is equal. So Abbott, no, Yahshua was never the real God. Doesn't require human sacrifice and cannibalism. I'm sorry, dude.
God has never required human sacrifice,
and he doesn't require cannibalism and drinking of blood. That's what the bad guys do. So yeah, that's 10-point defender. That's why I think that we're still in this matrix. It's because of the Christianity. They're still consenting and taking the knee to the Illuminati through the churches, through the Joel Osteens, through
slowly but surely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I know Caleb speaks about Joel Osteen. There's quite a few that he's come across in his life.
That man just exudes evil. I've never liked Joel Osteen.
The charismatic preachers. Anyway, listen. All right. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the owl?
We've actually got a lot more to talk about. But maybe we've
been way late, yeah.
Do we want to finish this on Monday? Because we got a lot with this series. We still got to talk about necromancy. We still got to talk about exorcisms. So I'm telling you guys, this is all because of Francis Borgia. So we can thank Francis Borgia because this dude is perfectly evil. But do we want to end with the video that I sent you from Atlanta with the TBS owl? Just to end, so you guys.
Yes. Okay. Just
I'll explain, you guys. So before we get into this, before he shows this video, we know. So Ted Turner is from Atlanta. CNN is based in Atlanta. I think people think CNN is in New York. No, it's in Atlanta. The Turner Broadcasting System in Atlanta. And we have what we call in Atlanta the connector. It's I-75 at 85 that connect, and they go through the middle of Atlanta. I live on one side, and on the other side is the other side of Atlanta. Well, a couple of blocks from where I live is the old TBS Center, the original TBS Center. And it faces across the connector, the freeway, the new TBS Center. And on top of the old TBS Center is none other than a big owl. So I videotaped it, and I sent it to Shanti. So we can end on this, and then we can finish the Owl of Minerva on Monday. So y'all still got a lot to talk about.
Okay, just give me a moment here. I've just got to call it up. Open.
Harold, I absolutely agree with you. There is Kenneth Copel. There's something.
I'm downtown, midtown Atlanta. So right in front of me.
So again, Abbott, which means wise woman. Which just means a wise woman.
I want to just see if I can get it here quickly, Bryce.
And banishing of any human being, trying to remove a human being's life is not of the light. The light doesn't do that. They don't censor people or remove people. So
can you see?
Is what we call the connector. I'm downtown, well, kind of midtown Atlanta. So right in front of me is what we call the connector. That's the freeway. It's 75. It's where 75 and 85 meet. You can kind of see. Anyway, downtown's that way. So across the street, across the freeway, I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's the new Turner TBS. Maybe I can pull my camera so you guys can see. That's the newish Georgia Tech's over there. And this is the old TBS. When TBS was when Ted Turner first opened TBS up here in Atlanta. I'm going to get closer. You can kind of see the TBS sign right here. So let's find the owl so you can see the owl.
Very 70s style video, building.
There it is.
So that's an big old golden owl on top of the old TBS Center, looking out at the new TBS Center. And
there it is.
Yeah. So,
wow. It's true about what you're saying about celebrity worship, though. That's the whole thing, and that's why they put their idols, these celebrities,
And I will say, though, few are chosen. Being chosen, a chosen one, that comes from the dark side. That's a pecking order of elitism, and that's part of the negative polarity. The positive polarity is a social memory complex where we all have our strengths, but we're all equal. So yeah, that's another way you can tell whether something's negatively oriented or positively oriented, is if there's a pecking order of valuable people, like certain people are more valuable than others, that's negative. That's negative polarity. Yeah, Harlan, I'm actually going to leave myself a note because I have more information on DC. So I'm going to leave myself a note for Monday. So join us Monday. Wink, wink. Join us Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time on Aquarius Rising Africa, so we can further talk about this. And I'm going to leave myself a note. Oh, Harold, sorry, I'm reading your name wrong. About my Washington D.C. I'm leaving myself a note, okay? Because I learned even more. It is in the shape of an owl, but I learned even more about Washington D.C. just recently. So I'm leaving myself a note here to bring that back up on Monday.
Perfect. Okay. Wow. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for joining us. And thank you for being open-minded. And thank you for sharing and caring and being in the chat. And to our new guests, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Share and share and share. This is the masterclass. We talk masterclass stuff here.
You got to be smart to be on this channel.
Yeah, otherwise we're going to piss you off badly. We're going to piss you off so badly. You're going to hate us forever. And then you're gonna call us the witches. Yeah, I was called the witch doctor, Sister Chantelle, that witch doctor from Africa.
That wise woman from Africa. Thank you. I agree, Shanti. You are a wise woman. So we're going to take these words back. We're going to bring them back to their original template. We're heretics and we're witches. Thank you. Yeah, we think for ourselves and we're wise.
God bless everybody. And again, thank you so much to beautiful Joanne, who always spoils my channel. And wow, thank you. And Linda, I so appreciate you. Look at that. Thank you, guys. I feel very lucky. Yes. And I feel very lucky to be spoiled like that. And thank you very much. I appreciate you very, very, very much. And from now on, forward and upwards.
We have a panel. Should we talk about the panel? We have a panel coming up on Gnostic TV.
Yes.
I almost forgot. Yeah.
Let us talk about. For those of you who mentioned who were watching Jesse's show, I spoke about our Tales of Survival from the Dark Side on Gnostic TV. That's going to be aired the last weekend of September. Please watch the space. It's the first time we take in SRA to Gnostic. That's kind of like my job there, is to open up and the SRA to a whole new different platform and awareness, which is what I'm doing. And so Bryce and I have put together the Gnostic conference, the virtual conference, and kick-ass speakers, Kathy O'Brien, Rocker Mike that Bryce interviewed, JC Zabota, Caleb Jade. Caleb talks for the first time about his capture in China, something I never ever thought I would hear that man speak about. I got to tell you, he's spoken about that. We have Dan and Teresa Duke, the descendants of Jesse James. We've got Jan Breeze, awesome whistleblower from Australia. We've got Rachel Vaughan from Australia, another also awesome whistleblower. And Adrian John Wells, who's disappeared and he's reappeared again. And I think there's someone else that I don't know. Sonia.
It's going to be fun. And there's a reason why we're doing it on Gnostic is because they're protected on Gnostic, guys. And I will say, Abbott, I don't consent to that. Abbott, you don't have a right to be doing any type of spiritual juju on people without their consent, Abbott. So I do not consent to that. Please do not do that to anybody without their consent. That's what? He says, I'm trying to exorcise you right now. With the demon face. Abbott, that you cannot, that's black magic, buddy. You can't be doing that to people without their consent. That is total black magic. So I do not consent to that. Don't be doing any spiritual magic for me. I'm good. So do not do that. That is black magic to do that without somebody's consent. There's nothing to exercise out of me. So yeah.
Exactly. I was going to say, anyway, what's there to exercise?
There's nothing to exercise out of me. So yeah, I just had to say something because that's not cool. You can't, that's when you do shit like that without someone's consent, that's black magic. That's selfish black magic. So absolutely not. There is a protection around me. You cannot, I'm very protected. So do not try to do that. No, 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 absolutely not. No consent. Yeah. Simply said, no consent. You don't have the right to do that.
Exactly.
So anyway, but join us on Gnostic. Gnostic.
Join us on Gnostic.
Right?
Yes, we're doing our conference. I think it's going to be over 2 days. Not sure, but please watch the space. We're going to be putting out the information soon. And tickets are available. It's going to be very cool. And I know I was supposed to start my channel on Gnostic ages ago already, but the timing for that has not been right. But I'm also going to be starting after the conference. I will be starting my stuff on Gnostic as well, where I will be interviewing my normal guests. But of course, since it's uncensored, we're going to go a whole lot deeper.
Absolutely. And again, they're protected, guys. That's another reason why we're doing on Gnostic. People like Caleb, Jesse, they're protected. They're more protected over there. So yeah. So, all right. See you on Monday.
Guys. Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, everybody. God bless you all. And if you can't be good, be good at it.